Hello there! I am Scorched Scales, and here we are with the actual conclusion of the series. Because today, I am finally talking about the Wings of Fire Winglets, a collection of 4 short stories written... I don't know when this was written. I don't know. This is why you write scripts. But these are 4 short stories that take place within the world of Wings of Fire before Arc 2, surrounding side characters in the series. Now, I'll fully admit, despite me doing this last in the series, I read this like a year ago. I read it like right after I finished the first arc. Hell, I even mentioned it in my first reading video. God, that was over a year ago now. I'm going to die someday. Now, to make it clear, I did reread these so I can actually talk about them somewhat in depth. But my analysis may not be as deep as all the other books because, I'll be honest, I don't really have that much to say about it. So, this video will cover my thoughts on 4 of the Winglets, because there's only 4 of them, which are Prisoner, that follows Fierceteeth, Starflight's sister, Assassin, which follows Deathbringer, Deserter, which follows Sixclaws, and Runaway, which follows Prince Artic and Foeslayer? That's her name, right? I'm gonna pull out the book and see. Hold on. Yes, Foeslayer. I was doubting myself for no reason.
I'm gonna get you out of here! I promise you, I'm gonna get you out of there! You don't belong in there!
So, our first Winglet, Prisoner, which follows Fierceteeth, as I've previously said, after the events of the Brightest Night. Actually, I think this one would take place around Escaping Peril, if I'm not wrong. Because Fierceteeth arrives at the Nightwing Kingdom in Talons of Power, which is also when the main characters get informed that she has escaped, which I presume was not long after she escaped, which this Winglet sets up. So yeah, I guess we have a exact timeline of when this takes place. Huh. But I'm not gonna lie, while I did enjoy my time reading it, it is probably my least favorite one in the book, because I wasn't really that engaged with it. I even had this problem the first time I read it. I think it's mainly due to how it's formatted, because in every other Winglet, it's formatted like a regular book. It's a third-person POV, but with it of course having eternal narration from the characters. The first Winglet isn't really like that, because the first Winglet is set up as a exchangement of notes between Fierceteeth and a guard that she is convincing to let her break free. So in this Winglet, you are seeing the actual scrolls that she is sending, while it is more first person, I guess, because it is the character writing it. But there are segments of this book where it essentially becomes a third-person narration, as Fierceteeth is describing her past and telling the story to the guard. It doesn't help that this book follows, of course, Fierceteeth, and since she's the one narrating it and writing the scrolls, her personality ends up really affecting the narration. Which would be fine with every other character. But the thing is here, it's Fierceteeth. Fierceteeth is a dick! While of course I am not saying just because you're following a character that you're not supposed to like means it's bad. No, that's stupid. But in this particular scenario with that, it didn't really jive with me, because I started to find her annoying. Every so often I'd be like, oh god, please shut up and just be a good person. And something funny that I noticed is that, of course, when things are presented in capitals, it's like somebody is yelling it. But in all of the letters sent by the guard, everything is in capitals, but that's because the guard is trying to seem professional, seem dominant, seem in control, so it's in big, bold letters. This did end up having the adverse effect, where when I would read the scrolls sent by the guard, I would read them as if yelling it. Like, I would get to a scroll written by the guard, and I would go, "Shut up, Nightwing! Know your place! I really like having peanut butter on my toast!" And another issue that I had with it is that I didn't really care about the actual stories Fierceteeth was telling. Since this winglet is about Fierceteeth trying to convince the guard to set her free, she's telling the guard her past, her stories, her personal tragedies, and trying to convince the guard why she should be set free. While these stories worked on the guard, it didn't work on me! Because even from the beginning, she's so entitled! Which, yes, is probably the point. It's funny, but it doesn't endear me to the character. Which, while yes, is once again probably the point. But in this scenario where it's Fierceteeth trying to convince a guard to sympathize with her, maybe it would be good to have the audience sympathize with her too. I didn't mind the story where Fierceteeth meets Strongwings, her boyfriend, and about how for once in her life she felt free, she felt safe, she no longer felt alone in the world when standing next to Strongwings. I like that. That's cute. But besides that, nothing here really made me care about Fierceteeth. Actually, there is a detail here that I really like, because this book foreshadows Peril, because Peril has been trapped in the Queen's dungeon for like 20 years! And we finally meet her in the Darkness of Dragons. Prisoner mentions that a few cells across from Fierceteeth, there is a mad Sandwing who insists that she's been in there for 20 years! So yeah, nice detail! I will say, a problem that I have with this and another winglet is that it's only really half of a story. Prisoner here really feels like the first half of a story. At the end of this winglet, the guard agrees to escape with Fierceteeth and set her free. But we don't see her actually escape. While yes, we don't really need to, because you set up that she's going to escape here, and in Tons of Power, we hear that, oh, she's escaped. But I would have liked to see the actual escape, instead of just telling the first half of the story. But once again, it's not really necessary. Like, you still get the point across even without showing it. So, with full disclosure, I did enjoy my time reading Prisoner, but I didn't really care for it in the end, and I'm not gonna lie, I think I'll place it around here. Yeah. Just above the Flames of Hope. While I do think the Flames of Hope does have a lot more good to even great stuff in it, I think it's just weighed down by the weight of the rest of the arc. Because the Flames of Hope is the conclusion to Arc 3. And in my opinion, it doesn't really perform that well as a conclusion. So that's why it's the lowest here. And I'm placing Prisoner right next to it because I didn't really care for it. It didn't really engage me, while I did enjoy my time. But it's higher than Flames of Hope because this didn't have the weight of the entire arc pressed upon it to succeed.
I'm getting the word
Nonce.
And now we move on to what I believe is the most popular winglet out of the four. And that's Assassin, the winglet following Deathbringer. Now, while this winglet probably is the most popular because it follows the most popular character out of the four, and theoretically I should love this, because I really like Deathbringer. He's one of my favourite characters in Wings of Fire. But I can't help but think something was missing, particularly at the end. Because throughout the entire Winglets, it's set up that Deathbringer has to follow the rules. He has to complete the mission. He has to ensure victory at all cost. And he has to make sure he never gets seen. Because otherwise, he will die! And in the end of this book, it comes to a climax where Deathbringer has to choose between ensuring that the forming alliance between the Sandwings, Seawings, and Mudwings fail, while his mother is taken away to be slaughtered. Now, in concept, that is a fantastic climax, like having a moral dilemma in that, with a primarily young character, having them think about, ooh, will I go after my mother because she's gonna be killed? Or will I stay and ensure that my mission is completed, which is what I've been taught to do my entire life? Once again, in concept, a fantastic ending. But I can't help but feel a bit disappointed in it. While, of course, the internal narration of Deathbringer is very emotionally charged because he's practically sending his own mother away to die. But in the end, to me, it didn't really feel emotional enough. Deathbringer should be really torn up at having to make this choice. But I didn't really feel it. Because during this moment, Deathbringer makes his vow. He vows that if he ever finds somebody that he cares about ever again, he'll do anything to protect them, even if it means abandoning his mission. While thinking about it, yeah, this 100% makes sense. But I didn't feel the weight of it. And I think it may be because you don't really see the outcome of his choice. Because yes, he succeeds his mission, his target dies, bleeding to death. I think it would make me feel emotionally satisfied if Deathbringer saw the dead body of his mother. Because in the Winglet, the last time you see Quick Strike is when two Sandwing guards take her unconscious body away to be killed. And with us not really seeing the outcome of that, it doesn't really feel like you feel the consequences. Like, I think after Deathbringer sees the death of his target, he should rush after Quick Strike. He should rush after her to see if he could still possibly save her. Only for him to show up and find her dead. And then to make his vow. I think that would have made a lot more sense emotionally. But besides that, I'll be honest, I don't really have any critiques. Like, story-wise, I pretty much have zero complaints. Except the ending, which really brings it down for me. Then we move on to probably the most discussed part of this winglet. Easily one of the most controversial topics in the world of Wings of Fire. Which is a continuity error with Deathbringer's age. Because Deathbringer is 4 years old in this winglet. And this winglet takes place 4 years before the DoD hatch. Which isn't really that big of an issue. Until you remember that, he dates one of them. Like, wow, he turned from good romantic interest to Whirlpool very quickly. And like, even Tui acknowledges that this was a mistake. That this isn't what she intended and she just forgot. But like, a mistake this big can't really be ignored. Which is quite unfortunate because Deathbringer and Glory's relationship is probably my favourite in the series, because I find their dynamic funny. But here's the big thing with me with this issue. It's that it doesn't really affect me and my interpretation of Deathbringer. Because due to me reading the entirety of Arc 1 before reading this, I already had a version of Deathbringer built into my head. In Arc 1, Deathbringer is described as being around the same age as the DoD. He is a year or two older than him, and even in the Dark Secret, Deathbringer is described as just being a head taller than Starflight. So, in my head, Deathbringer was 2 years older than the DoD. So when I was reading about him in this book, I didn't imagine like a big 4-year-old dragon going around doing all this stuff. Instead, what I imagined was a little 2-year-old dragon going around and having to deal with all this emotional stress and all this weight of the world being pressed upon him. Hell, even in this very video, I've described him as a young dragon, because that's how I pictured him. Like, multiple times throughout reading this book, my vision kept on changing constantly, because my mind kept on automatically defaulting him to being a small 2-year-old dragon. But every so often, the Winglet would remind me that, ooh, this guy is 4 years old, and all of a sudden he, like, triples in size! So while, yeah, this Winglet does open a big issue, it doesn't really bother me due to me already having my own interpretation of the character. So yeah, that's really all I had to say. So I guess we'll get on to the ranking. So right now, I would personally rank Assassin around here. Yeah, it's not as high as a lot of other people put it. And it's not as high as where I originally put it before rereading it for this video. But the thing that really brings this Winglet down for me is the ending. Like, if the ending was really good, really emotionally resonant, it would be a lot higher. Hell, it might even be an excellent or great. But due to my issues with it, it just goes in good. But I cannot emphasize how sad I am that I can't put this thing on the bottom, because I can't make a ass joke when the title of it has the word ass in it. Like, come on! Why couldn't you be awful? The joke is right there!
Hans, are we the baddies?
And now we have Deserter, the Winglet that follows Sixclaws, who, I'm not gonna lie, I think is a really underrated character in the series. And I'm not gonna lie, I might just say it right here, Deserter is my favourite Winglet. I love how you got to see the passage of time, because due to Sixclaws being an adult, he saw the sparks of the Sandwing Civil War before it even begun, when one of the contestants was just a child. Even when Blaze was just a little infant, you could see the little seeds that would go off and eventually become a civil war that would envelop Pyria for 20 years! You know, just a little civil war. Nobody died. Definitely not. Death? In this series? Nah! And I love how we actually got to see the actual outcome of Queen Oasis' death. Because previously in the series, our only POV of it was in the prologue of The Darkness of Dragons. And even then, it ends before Queen Oasis dies. So far, this is our first and only POV of the direct aftermath of Queen Oasis's death, which shows that Blister and Blaze are there. They are there standing over Queen Oasis's body, and Blister weaves the situation into where she and Burn don't fight to the death, because if they did, Blister would lose, ending the book series before it even starts. Which we can't really allow to happen because I like my murderous dragon autism books. And following on from that, you see the world change as the Sandwings delve into civil war. And I think it's just wonderful to see. I really like it. I like seeing death. And then we move on to the POV of this winglet, which is Sixclaws. Now, Sixclaws' arc is actually somewhat similar to Deathbringer's, just in different contexts, in a different font, because both of their arcs conclude with them being able to make their own choices, them gaining their own independence, which is probably why Deathbringer is in this winglet. Yeah, he appears for like a few lines and like nudges Sixclaws to disobey Burn, which yes makes his age issue even more prevalent. I do think it makes a lot of sense considering both of their arcs, and I understand why Tui made the choice. And we also see the backstory of June in this winglet, which I wasn't expecting the first time I read this. Like, in the beginning of this winglet, June is like, I don't want this life, man. I don't want to look after children for the rest of my life. Oh, poor fella. Filled with such dreams and ambitions, only for them to be brought down by the world due to his war injuries. No wonder why he was a prick. Dude lost everything. And I will say, there is a really small detail that I like here, is that Sixclaws' mother is called Ostrich. Now, when I read this name, I was like, wait, I know this name. And then I was like, wait, isn't Sixclaws' daughter called Ostrich? And then I realized, oh, Sixclaws named his daughter after his mother, who he loved. Which, I think that's really sweet. Like, it's a really, really small detail, but I like it. I think it's cute. But now we move on to what I believe is the biggest issue of this winglet. And that's the ending. Because I want to see the rest of it. Just like Prisoner, this feels like the first half of a story, while Prisoner got away with that because we see the outcome of it. We don't really need to see the actual escape of Fierceteeth, but I really want to see the second half of Sixclaws' story. I want to see how they met Fawn. I want to see them exploring the Scorpion Den. I want to see Sixclaws and June's relationship slowly fall apart and climax with June taking Sunny's egg and running away into the desert. Like, I want to see that. I really want to see that. But I can't cause it's not written. Like, yeah, my biggest issue with this winglet is that I don't have more of it. More! Give me more! Okay, so, as for the ranking, Deserter is gonna go around here. Yeah, it's in great, but it's not gonna go any higher. And to be honest, it would be very unlikely for any winglet to get higher than great, because it's a winglet. It's like one chapter, which isn't really enough to trump an entire book. I'm not saying it's impossible. If the winglet is written well enough, it could become my favourite thing in the series. But none of these winglets do for me personally. but I still like Deserter. It just can't escape the threshold, due to me not having a sequel to it.
I think I'm in love with Sebastian. Any thoughts?
And prayers. You're going to need them.
And now we move on to Runaway, the final winglet that exists. And this one follows Prince Artic and Foeslayer back 2,000 years ago. And this winglet continues from the prologue of Legends Darkstalker. It follows directly from the ending of the prologue, which I think is really neat. I really like it. Like, if you wanted to, you could read the prologue of Darkstalker, read the winglet, and then get to the actual book. And there, you would get the full context of Foeslayer and Prince Artic, which I think is really cool. So, as for the actual winglet itself, I think it's good. You get to see Foeslayer and Prince Artic both have these idealistic views of love, romance, and their feelings for each other. They have this idealistic, fantastical, beyond bounds view of love, which is kinda what brings them down in the end. Because they are both chasing this ideal view of a romance where everything is perfect, where they'll never fight, and they're perfect for each other, and they will never argue ever. Even in this winglet, you have Foeslayer figure out that, ooh, the only reason why I was brought along was so Prince Artic would fall in love with me. Like this whole thing was a trap. And she doesn't tell Artic in fears of him immediately antagonizing her. Like, if she truly believed that he was her star-crossed lover, that they were perfectly made for each other, she would have told him right there and then. But they don't. Because even though they view each other as their soulmate, they do doubt each other due to them not being in the other person's head. Meaning they don't know how far the other would be willing to go to help them. Which ends with Prince Artic using his animus powers, and he kills people that he didn't intend to. He kills people he knew, and he clearly ends up being haunted by this for the rest of his life, leading him to become the not-so-pleasant man we know in Darkstalker. Even in the end of this winglet, Foeslayer essentially blackmails herself. She goes, everything's gonna be okay. There's gonna be no issues, but we're gonna live forever happily in the Nightwing Kingdom. Despite, just a moment before that, you see the first time Prince Artic's aggression towards her. And I found the ending of this winglet to be nothing but tragic. Poor Foeslayer, hell, poor Prince Artic. But there are two side characters which really stick out to me here, and that's Snowflake and Snowfox. Snowfox being Prince Artic's arranged fiancé, and Snowfox being Prince Artic's cousin, who is the only female dragon in the family at the moment, who can fight Queen Diamond and take her throne. Even though they are both villains, they are both the antagonists of this story, I really liked them. I remember, whenever I forget their names, I know them as the cool, evil lesbian couple. I really liked them. I really liked how they actually cared for each other. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm still quite disappointed that they didn't appear in Legends Darkstalker. Because at the end of this book, Snowflake is burned and she can't fly ever again. But meanwhile, Snowfox vows to have her vengeance. And she can still fly, she can still fight. She can still inherit the throne if she fights Queen Diamond. And since I read this winglet before reading Legends Darkstalker, I was like, oh, that's who the antagonist is gonna be in Legends Darkstalker. Ooh, I can't wait to see them again. And then I was disappointed when they didn't appear. Like, I'm so surprised that there is a big of a setup like that. Like, the character vows vengeance, and we never see them again. Like, I don't believe they're ever even mentioned again. But I'm not gonna lie, I did just realize this like a couple hours ago. But there is a big, like, plot hole in this winglet. Like, I'm not the kind of media consumer who goes, ooh, plot hole. I'm not the kind of guy who points out plot holes and criticizes media for having them. But there is a pretty big one in this winglet because it's established when Prince Artic meets Foeslayer near the end of the book to escape that he has a invisible bracelet. Well, the bracelet isn't invisible, it's a bracelet that turns him and whoever he touches invisible. He uses it twice, I think, but he doesn't use it in the actual escape. He casually has something that will turn him invisible, and he doesn't use it when he escapes. At the end of this book, before they escape, Foeslayer says that they can't leave by themselves because if they did, her mother would be slaughtered because of it. So they end up taking her mother and the other Nightwings away in the escape with them. But like, on your way back to the Nightwing Kingdom, can't you just activate the invisibility bracelet and like, leave? Nobody will see you. Well, it is said that Artic doesn't speak much because he's haunted by what he did. But like, can't you suggest the idea before you leave? Can't you suggest the idea before you unfreeze your mother? Like, come on. You have a gauntlet that turns you invisible. Use it! And now, on to the final ranking. The last winglet to rank, and the last ever thing that I will rank in this series. So personally, right now, I would rank Runaway around here. Yeah, it's in good, because I think it's good. It does have a few issues that prevents it from going into great for me personally, but I don't mind it. I think the concept of the winglets has really yet to prove to its full potential, because I really like the idea of these winglets. I really like the idea of telling short stories in this world. Like one-off stories just like these. I really like the concept, and I really like the stories here. But I can't help but think that there's still missed potential with these. While there is some within the stories themselves, I think the biggest missed opportunity is that there aren't more of them. Like, one I personally really wanted to see would be one from either Stone Mover or Fawn. But I'm not gonna lie, if we saw something from the POV of Fawn, I would want it to be longer than a winglet. But that story of them meeting is something I would really like to see in a winglet. Like, there are so many stories you could tell in a winglet, but unfortunately, due to Tui being a busy person, she doesn't have all the time in the world to write these, because she's justifiably so prioritizing the actual books. Which is kinda important in a book series. But I would like a new one of these every so often. I need the second half of that Sixclaws story. I need it now. Inject it straight into my veins. But yeah, now it's complete. I have now ranked every Wings of Fire book in the series. And as for the art that I drew in this video, of course I drew Fierceteeth. Now, I will admit, my original plan was to draw all 4, well, 5, of POV characters throughout the Winglets, but then I realised that it takes me around an hour and a half to 3 hours to draw a character, meaning each individual recording, on average, would have been 2 hours. This would mean that I would approximately have to take 2 hours of footage and condense it down to 10 minutes. And now, due to the way that I draw, I constantly zoom in and out of a picture to look at the changes that I've made and to gain a overall perspective on the piece. So, I realised after I drew Fierceteeth that if I drew every single character, this video would need a seizure warning. And I'm not saying this as a joke. So, I didn't want to touch that. And I didn't want to risk it. So, I just stuck with my Fierceteeth drawing. But my Fierceteeth. My Fierceteeth is very different from what I've previously drawn. Because, of course, I'm trying to experiment more with drawing characters from different perspectives. Instead of everything being profile like normal, I wanted to test with different angles of the head specifically. Because I've noticed in my other drawings that I've really struggled with that. And I think this is my first ever drawing where it actually looks good. Because a big issue that I had with my previous perspective drawings is that I worried too much about anatomy and shapes. Because I noticed that my drawings were very blocky and it didn't really feel organic. It felt like unsculpted clay. Like, it just felt like raw shapes just mashed together. And I know why this happened, because during the thought process of me drawing it, I was like, okay, this has to be anatomically accurate to what I imagine in my head. And I try and do that, and theoretically, as I'm drawing it, it should work. But at the end, it looks nothing like what I had in my head. But here, I drew this as what's gonna look good? How can I imply certain things while caring about the anatomy, while also exaggerating certain parts to make it look good? I like this. I really do like this. It's not great. It's not excellent by any means, especially compared to other people's drawings. But for my standards, compared to my previous art, I think this is good. But due to me trying something new, I did have a lot of problems during the actual drawing. Like the horns. I have always struggled with doing horns. Because at first, I make them too big, I plop them onto the back of a skull. So eventually, over time, I have to make them shorter and shorter and smaller and keep on adjusting them to make them actually look good. And another part that I really struggled with, which you probably saw, was Fierceteeth's left eye, specifically. Because my thinking was, okay, she can look forward, so therefore, from certain angles, you can see both of her eyes. So I kept on drawing her other eye, and no matter what I did, it just looked bad. So I decided, hey, this might look better if I don't include it at all. And I think it does look better. But that's definitely something that I'm going to have to improve upon in my future art. And I have to point this out here. But when it came to her colours at the end, I was like, okay, I don't want to base this off anything. Let me be creative for once and actually make my own thing. So that's what I do. I make her like a purplish black, and I give her a pinkish red underbelly. And in the moment, I'm like, yeah, this is good, this is unique, I like this. But after I finish, I realize I didn't make up these colors. These colors aren't unique. I straight up just stole the colors of Cinder from Spyro. I go on my way of trying to color something original, and I accidentally steal the colors from something else, which just so happens to be another dragon. So, I guess Strong Wings is bright purple now. And now we have come to the end of this series. We've finally come to the end of me reading Wings of Fire for the first time, even though I have already read these. But I'm not going to give a big speech about the channel and the series, because I already did that in The Flames of Hope, and let's just face it, these last 2 videos have pretty much just been epilogues. So, the series has kind of already ended. So, I'm not going to give a big speech on the channel, and the series, and my art, because I already done that. But this time, I just want to reflect on the series. The actual book series, not my series, not this channel, because that would contradict what I literally just said. But like, there's 17 books in this series, not including the graphic novels. And I still think the quality of them is astonishing. Like, you look at anything where there's tons of entries, and like, there's loads of dips in quality. But here, in Wings of Fire, I would really only call one of them bad? And even then, it has great stuff in it. So it is kind of teetering on the edge of, ooh, this is bad to, this is alright. And I just think it's shocking that this series is 10 years old, there's 17 books, and none of them are downright horrible. Like, that is astonishing. That is so much work. That is so much fiction. That's so many stories across so little time in perspective. And it's a miracle that these are readable. Never mind good to great. I think this just puts into perspective how talented of a author Tui Sutherland is. And like, I don't think I really appreciated how unique Tui's writing voice is. Because after finishing the main series, I did go off and read more books because I enjoy the act of reading now. And I didn't realize how unique these books were. Some people may label it as being unrefined or juvenile. And I completely understand that this may not be for some people. But I like it. And I'll be fully honest, I don't think I'm gonna be able to find another series I find as magical as this one, that clicks with me as much as this one. I truly don't think I'll be able to find another series that I become entranced with as much as this one. Of course, that doesn't mean that I'll find other book series that I like. I know that's wrong because I've already found another one, but when I read these books, there truly is something magical that I find about it. I don't know if it's biases, due to this being the first book series that I've ever read, but there's something about this series that just clicks with me. And of course, there is Arc 4 upon the horizon. I am aware that Tui is writing the first book. Of course, I'm excited, but I'm cautiously optimistic. Because, of course, I'm a fan of the series, I'm excited, I want more of it. But also, I do want it to be good. But given Tui's track record already, there's a very good chance that I'll enjoy it. And of course, I'm gonna read it, of course, I'm gonna make a video about it. Hell, I'll probably make multiple videos about it. But I really am anticipating the future of this. I love this series. I love this channel. I love these videos. And I don't mind you a lot. But by the time this video releases, it'll probably be the new year. Huh. So, if that is the case, then Happy New Year. And I guess I'll see you all there. Because this is really all I had to say. So thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you another day.